Putin's invasion of Ukraine and his imperialist justification for doing it has been widely condemned by most of the international community. However, Putin isn't the only world leader currently in the business of making questionable territorial claims based on bygone empires. In recent years, Turkey's President Erdogan has made increasingly hawkish claims about Turkey's proper borders, and in 2019 named Turkey's naval exercise Mavi Vatan, a term which was first adopted by a Turkish naval officer in 2016 to describe an ambitious doctrine which claims much of the Mediterranean, Aegean, and Black Seas for Turkey. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at Erdogan's Mavi Vatan policy, whether he really means it, and why the recent uptick in energy prices has made the issue more fractious than ever. To understand the origins of the Mavi Vatan policy, we've got to go back to the mid-2000s, when Erdogan and his AKP party were moving closer towards European Union accession. Back then, more hawkish members of the Turkish military were worried that Erdogan would give up on Turkey's controversial territorial and maritime claims, including those involving Greece and Cyprus, in order to appease the EU. And in 2016, both in reaction to a controversial paper published by the University of Seville suggesting that Turkey accept more conservative maritime borders if it wants to join the EU, and in anticipation of maritime territory negotiations with the EU, a bunch of hawkish admirals proposed an expansive maritime doctrine known as the Mavi Vatan doctrine. Mavi Vatan, which translates to Blue Homeland in English, essentially claims much of the Aegean, Mediterranean, and Black Seas for Turkey, including the sea surrounding Cyprus, which Turkey doesn't recognize as an independent state anyway. This proposal was first spearheaded by Rear Admiral Kem Gurdenitz, a hawkish military analyst who views NATO as a US-led plot to protect Greece's apparently illegitimate maritime claims in the Aegean. According to Gurdenitz, Mavi Vatan is the name of the, quote, zone of Turkish interests and jurisdiction over fresh and sea waters between the 25th and 45th eastern meridians and the 33rd and 43rd northern parallels. In practice, this means that the Mavi Vatan doctrine claims Turkish jurisdiction over the eastern half of the Aegean and the northern half of the eastern Mediterranean. While this apparently doesn't amount to a challenge on the Greek sovereignty of the islands in the eastern Aegean, it does imply that Turkey should have exclusive economic control over the waters surrounding those islands, and that Greece can't use those islands as a basis for territorial or economic claims. It's also worth noting that while Mavi Vatan doesn't explicitly claim the sea to the east of Cyprus, Turkey doesn't recognize Cyprus as an independent state, and has tacitly endorsed maritime claims made by the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, which cover the area. All in all, the Mavi Vatan policy would give Turkey and its northern Cypriot ally a naval dominion expanding 462,000 square kilometers. Now, to understand how expansive and controversial this doctrine is, we need a quick primer in international maritime law, as codified by the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, otherwise known as UNCLOS. According to UNCLOS, a state's territorial waters extend 12 nautical miles from their coastline, while their exclusive economic zone extends 200 nautical miles from their coastline. If two different countries' zones overlap, then by default they're split half and half in accordance with the principle of equidistance. Anyway, according to UNCLOS, in the west, Turkey's EEZ basically hugs the Turkish coast, pushed back by the Greek islands in the area, while in the south, Turkey's EEZ is similarly constrained by the Cypriot and Greek EEZ claims. Now, to be fair to Turkey here, UNCLOS does somewhat unfairly benefit multi-island states like Greece. The most glaring example of this is the tiny archipelago of Greek islands just a few kilometers from the Turkish coast, which allows Athens to claim a vast maritime space between Rhodes and Cyprus, hundreds of miles away from the Greek mainland. And this claim is important because it essentially blocks Turkey's only opening to the Mediterranean. And for context, the UN clause currently gives Greece some 500,000 square kilometers of EEZ, while Turkey has just about half of that. It's also worth noting that UNCLOS overwrote an agreement that the Aegean territory claims only extended 6 nautical miles from the coast. So when UNCLOS was adopted, it amounted to some fairly major changes. So it's safe to say that Turkey doesn't love the current system. And as such, it's maybe unsurprising that Mavi Vatan doctrine violates both UNCLOS and Greek sovereignty. But this isn't necessarily a problem for Turkey, as they're one of just a few countries not to have signed the UNCLOS agreement, and the only UN state which doesn't recognize Cyprus. But even with these loopholes in place, it hasn't stopped the Mavi Vatan policy from provoking international controversy. Anyway, while the Turkish military was very keen on Mavi Vatan in the early 2000s, it wasn't really an AKP policy until a fair bit later. In fact, Gürdenes, the person behind the policy originally, was actually jailed by Erdogan in 2012 for allegedly supporting the so-called sledgehammer coup attempt. And the other admirals who first suggested the idea were all secular Kemalists, which basically means that they disagreed with Erdogan's brand of political Islam. Nonetheless though, Mavi Vatan does chime with Erdogan's neo-Ottomanism, and rather coincidentally, relations between his AKP party and the military began improving after the 2016 coup, which is maybe why he's essentially decided to endorse the policy anyway. The clearest sign of this came in 2019, when Erdogan officially named Turkey's annual naval exercise Mavi Vatan, as a not-so-subtle nod to the policy. But it doesn't just come down to the names. Turkey's bellicosity in the Mediterranean over the last few years, and their maritime zone-sharing agreement with Libya in 2019, which cuts across Greece's territorial waters, can also be interpreted as expressions of the Mavi Vatan doctrine. As you'd expect, Greece and the rest of Europe have pushed back against Erdogan's imperial ambitions. However, it's possible that Erdogan will actually end up taking an even more aggressive stance in the near future. That's because Turkey is a big energy importer, and the recent uptick in global energy prices has made Erdogan particularly worried about Turkey's energy security. So it's possible that Erdogan might decide Mavi Vatan is the best way to secure Turkish access to the unexplored oil and gas fields in the eastern Mediterranean, which would provide Turkey with a much-needed domestic energy supply. The point we're making is that the new energy environment could push Erdogan into asserting the Mavi Vatan doctrine even more aggressively than he has so far. And with the comparisons to the war in Ukraine, it's easy to see how this could all play out badly. Regardless, there's clearly much more to come on this story, so you'll want to be updated as this story plays out. And to do that, you should check out our show, The Daily Briefing. It's there where we run down the biggest stories each day to keep you in the loop in just minutes. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel or podcast by clicking the links below. But if you sign up to Nebula, you can get an extended version of the show every single day. That's a triple-length briefing every weekday. As you likely already know, Nebula is the streaming service that we've built with some of our creator friends, including all of these awesome people who are also on the platform. So if you sign up, you can get the extended daily briefing plus tons of other exclusive full-length TLDR videos, including our team's recent attempt at the British citizenship test and a tour of our new office, as well as all of our videos being ad-free. If you're interested and do want to sign up, then you'll want to use the link in the description to get the Nebula Curiosity Stream bundle deal. Here's how it works. If you sign up to Curiosity Stream, home to the best documentaries online, then you'll also get Nebula included absolutely free. That means it's less than $15 a year for both services. Curiosity Stream for high-quality documentaries, and Nebula for bonus TLDR content. And doing so also really supports the channel, so thanks for your help.